Hello and welcome back to another FPL transfer tips video. We are bringing this out on the weekend before Game Week 4 has actually finished. One, to get it out as early as possible, and two, because I'm actually recording this on Wednesday. As some of you may already know, I'm going away on Friday for a week, so I'm going to have to pre-record all of next week's videos, or this week as the time you're watching it. So I'm going to try to get this out as early as possible. I think it makes sense for a lot of people on either Saturday or Sunday night trying to make some transfers, or trying to at least see what to do for some transfers. So I thought I'd try to get it out for this weekend. Now, obviously with the fact that this is coming out during Game Week 4, we don't actually have the results for this week's games. Now, you will probably know most of how these players got on this week for our Game Week 4 transfer tips, but obviously me recording this on Wednesday, I've got no idea. So hopefully you're watching this and looking at all these players who have done exactly as we would hope they would do, but obviously right now we're unable to see, so we're going to have to do a double one next week, but let's get into the video. So this week we are starting off with a striker, and it's going to be Nicholas Jackson from Chelsea. Now, he's actually got off to a very good start at the start of this season, obviously playing as the striker for Chelsea, the main striker. And in terms of like expected goals and stuff, he's doing very well. He's literally only getting beat by Haaland so far in the entire Premier League in the first 3 games. So very happy with the way he's playing. Obviously, we have had to change the graphics up a little bit for this week, because there's no point in looking at like transfer changes, how many people have transferred them in and out when I'm recording it 4 or 5 days before this actually goes live. So changing it up a little bit, we're just going for stats now. He's currently 7.6 million as of recording this. Again, expected goals look absolutely brilliant, and the Chelsea fixtures are still really nice for the next couple of weeks. So he has West Ham away in Game Week 5, followed by Brighton at home in Game Week 6, and then Nottingham Forest in Game Week 7. So 3 very decent fixtures. Obviously Brighton is still classed as a green fixture. I don't think it's as easy as the game makes it out to be, but again, it's still a home fixture where he could easily score in that. Now, in terms of big chances created from each of the teams, Chelsea are currently sitting in joint third, only behind Liverpool and Man City. Now, again, just kind of shows you how well they are doing attacking wise this season. And I think, again, West Ham are looking like one of the worst defences in the league right now. They're actually currently sitting second for XG conceded, only behind Ipswich. So I think it's a good week that Jackson can do quite well, and there is still a couple of weeks ahead of us that Jackson could do quite nicely with these easier fixtures. And again, sitting about 5 expected points per game, which is pretty nice as well. Next up, we're looking at another striker that I do think is a very nice buy this week, and that is Chris Wood, who's currently sitting at 6.1 million. Now, when you look at his expected goals, his expected points, it is kind of what you would expect of someone at that price range. So he's currently sitting 10th in expected goals throughout the season, which is kind of similar to the likes of your bigger strikers with Havertz and Watkins, who are obviously a lot more expensive, but you can get Wood for a much cheaper price. Now, he's already scored 2 goals this season, really liking the look of him, and his fixtures do look pretty decent. Now, Forest have a big list of good fixtures, so you can see these ones. Basically, Chris Wood's looking like a good long-term option. I do really like him. He's one that you can kind of just keep as one of your strikers, potentially if you're looking to get Haaland and Salah in your team. He's a good cheap striker to get alongside Haaland, and that would obviously let you afford some of the more expensive midfielders. So I'm really liking Chris Wood. In terms of expected points over the next 5 game weeks, again sitting in 10th, and he is again matching the likes of Havertz, De Bruyne, Son, the more expensive players, and even someone like Mbeumo, who is down as one of the more essential players right now. He's obviously been fantastic in the first couple of game weeks, and everyone kind of wants to get him in, and he's expected to score just a little bit more points than he is. So again, like I said, I'm really liking him. I think he could be a fantastic long-term option, and I would definitely get him in your team this week. So we've got all these strikers coming in, which means we're going to have to get rid of one. Now, for me, I think the sell here is going to be Alexander Isak, one of the, or literally the most popular player in Game Week 1, the most owned player in Game Week 1. I think it is time that we start to look to move him on now. As of Game Week 5, he's done okay. You know, he's got a goal, he's got an assist, and he's not got the big points that we've been wanting from him, but he is slowly returning now. In terms of expected goals, he is sitting down in 16th, which is still along the lines of your Sons and De Bruynes. So like I said, he just hasn't been like a terrible option. He's still sitting at 8.5 million as of now, but again, for example, the likes of Chris Wood obviously doing a lot better for a large fraction of the price. Now, the reason I think selling Isak could be a good move this week is when we look at his next 6 opponents, when you're looking at their defensive ranking in terms of expected goals conceded, all of them rank quite highly in terms of like being a good defence. So you can see game week 5, we've got Fulham, they're the 16th, so it essentially makes them the 5th best defence in the league. So this goes in reverse order, and when you're looking at expected goals conceded, so obviously you can see with Man City, they're the 2nd best defence in the league, putting them at 19th. Everton are really the only the only bad defence that Isak has to come up against in the next 6 weeks. So in terms of big hauls, I can really only see it coming against Everton. And is that worth it to hold on to him throughout this whole period of time where again he's coming up against difficult teams? I don't think so. Obviously you're looking at Fulham in game week 5. On paper you would probably think that's actually not too bad, but obviously defensively they look pretty solid and it's an away fixture. The expected points do say differently, however. You can see 5.9 for the next 3 games as well, even against Manchester City. But as I said, I'm not saying Isak's a bad option, I just think there is better strikers out there you can get for the next coming game weeks. And for example, you've got your Jacksons and your Woods, who I do think could do a lot better. Now, moving away from strikers, we are looking at Josko Vardiol for Man City. Now, I do believe it is time to get rid of him. He has not really been the same player that we saw at the end of last season, and I believe that's because of the inclusion of Rico Lewis in at right back. Now, you can see by his heat maps on screen this season, he just isn't really getting too near the box. Obviously, he's playing as the left back. He was the one who was getting forward while Kyle Walker stayed back last season. Now with Rico Lewis in the team, Rico Lewis is the one getting forward and Vardiol is the one staying back. So I think for that 6 million price range, you are really looking for a defender that can get attacking returns and is going to do really well in terms of like clean sheets and everything as well. And I don't think Vardiol is really offering that. He's only scored 11 points this week, which puts him 20th in terms of defenders, which, again, as one of the most expensive defenders in the game, isn't really what you're looking for. Now, his next 2 fixtures come against Arsenal and Newcastle, where I don't think he's going to be keeping clean sheets. So, again, you're probably looking at only a couple of points from him in the next 2. Obviously, a really nice fixture run for City after that, but I think at that point, you could easily just do a daisy chain, get Vardiol out the now, and then move on to a cheaper City defender, for example Rico Lewis, if you want to get a defender in for that nice fixture run. And next up we're looking at Watkins, so we're back to the strikers. It is a very striker based video today. That does seem to be the one that have a lot of the fixture swings and stuff like that, so we are very focused on the strikers this week. Now Watkins is definitely a keep for me. Looking at his expected goals, he's sitting at 8th so far, which is still very respectable. You know, you look at the likes of Salah, only a little bit ahead of him for expected goals, and Watkins could easily be doing a lot better than he is right now. He obviously we all probably seen the miss against Arsenal, which would have accumulated for a lot of his expected goals. But he has definitely been very unlucky not to have scored so far, and he has already dropped in price to 8.9 million. He is one of the most transferred players out in game week 4 as well. But when you're looking at his fixtures coming up, he's playing against Wolves at home, he's playing against Ipswich away. They're very, very favourable fixtures. Even the Man United fixture at home could be classified as a pretty decent fixture for him. Now, my reason for keeping him this week, you can see by the strikers so far against Wolves. In game week 1, obviously it was Arsenal. In game week 2, Chelsea. In game week 3, Nottingham Forest. Now, all 3 of these games against Wolves, the striker returned. Now, Havertz picked up a 12-pointer, Jackson a 10-pointer, and then Chris Wood picked up a 9-pointer. So if there's any time that Watkins is going to be able to get his first goal of the season, it's going to be against Wolves at home. Now, obviously I'm recording this again on Wednesday, so he might have actually scored at the weekend as you're watching this, but obviously I don't know that. But for me, 100% Watkins is going to be a keep this week, and even a potential buy if you currently don't own him. And finally, to end off the video, we're looking at Calvert-Lewin. Now, Everton have a very favourable run of fixtures all the way up until game week 15, so it will be tempting to try and get an Everton player in, and Calvert-Lewin probably is the one that you're going to hear the most about. Now, for me, I think he's going to be an avoid this week. In terms of how he's actually done so far this season, he's not really impressing too hard. You can see by his league ranking, in terms of XG, he's currently sitting in 68th place, which is going to be less than like a lot of like defenders and stuff in the game. 68th really isn't too great whatsoever. In terms of expected assists as well, he's currently sitting in 47th. For shots taken in the league, he's 76th. I think he's only had 3 shots in the 3 games that he's played so far. And in terms of expected points over the next 5, there's 38 players who are expected to score more than him over the next 5 games. So his stats really aren't looking too great. He's already dropped in price to 5.9 million. Obviously, the big thing for him would be the fact that he's on penalties, and he did have a really nice game week 3, picking up a goal, an assist, and 3 bonus points. But I wouldn't get too carried away with that, because we know how much Calvert-Lewin can get injured. You can see his injury record on screen. He has missed a lot of games over the last few years. Not so much last year, only missing 6, but do we really think, even if you're going to bring him in, that he's going to last all the way to game week 14? Are we thinking he's playing 8 games in a row? Personally, I don't think so. It would be 9 games in a row up until then. So I think it's one of those ones that I feel like every time Everton do have a nice run of fixtures, people think about bringing in Calvert-Lewin, and then it never really works out too well, or it rarely does at least. So for me, I don't think I would look at him. Again, the stats don't favour him too much, and even if he is going to score goals, he might not even last 2 or 3 game weeks before he gets injured again. So for me, Calvert-Lewin is going to be an avoid for this week. And that wraps up this week's transfer tips. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like on the video. Obviously, we're going to have to do a double check-up next week with Game Week 4 and Game Week 5 transfers to see how we got on. Only 6 players this week, as it is pre-recorded. I don't want to throw a ton of players in here which could end up getting injured by the time this video ends up coming out. So 6 players, a lot of them being strikers. I think that's the big focus of this week. So of course, good luck for Game Week 5. We'll be back to regular videos next week. If you enjoyed again, make sure to leave a like, and I'll see you all in the next one.